Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. A lot of fans seem ready for the LeBron era to be over. Why? Plus, some Coach of the Year love for JJ Redick. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how, where you get your podcasts, this one's always free and never behind paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with upwards of 35,000 subscribers to the channel. And all of them, Andy, they're ducking into the playoffs, and they're checking out who's winning and who's losing. And they're noting that JJ Redick got some Coach of the Year love. And they're wondering where centers are going to come from. There's lots of stuff that we're going to get into. But before we do that, Andy, the reaction to our show for Monday, I have found interesting because I think you can divide it up. For those who missed it, you can go back and listen. It's all about LeBron James. I mean, Luka Doncic, we know, is going to come back. We're fairly confident, is going to come back until we hear differently, just in whatever form of a contract Luka wants. That's all the Lakers are really waiting on, and they'll give him what he wants. LeBron, on the other hand, it is, because of his age and all of this, it's a little bit more of a sticky issue about the how and the when and the how long and all of this stuff. And so we spent a lot of time for Monday's show, Andy, talking about it and breaking down the different potential options and all these other things. And I have been, as far as I can tell me if you disagree, I'm kind of seeing a fair amount of we're done of reaction, at least on our channel. We're done with the LeBron era. And I think you can break that down into a few different reasons. But broadly speaking, I was at least a little surprised at how many people were like, great, get rid of him, move on, and let's turn the page.
I'm not surprised. It's a combination of the factors that I talked about, which I tried to stress, albeit to no success. It's not about, quote unquote, hating LeBron or disrespecting him, not appreciating him. It's a matter of a roster spot being taken up in a salary capped league as LeBron needs more infrastructure, needs more help around him, and you are looking for the opportunity to truly build the way you would want to around Luka Doncic as your younger face of the future, which cannot be fully realized with LeBron's salary there, even and to some degree LeBron's presence, but if nothing else, the salary, even while acknowledging LeBron is still playing at a high level. So that's a piece of it. The other piece of it, to be totally honest, is Laker fans, I think, as a whole, as a collective, I think many of them have appreciated LeBron, certainly his career, but appreciated that LeBron was part of bringing one championship in 2020. I think they can all appreciate how he really took it upon himself to shoulder the movement forward after Kobe's death, and how difficult that was for the franchise. And LeBron really played an instrumental role in trying to shepherd the franchise through this unbelievable tragedy and sadness and all of that. And I think that is something Laker fans can appreciate. But the reality is he's never been, I think, universally embraced by Laker fans. I think he's always felt in some ways like something between a mercenary and an interloper, and somebody who's been kind of using the franchise while the franchise has been using him. And that's fine, but that means you don't get attached to that player. And particularly when there is a page to be turned, there will be a lot of fans who want to see it turned.
And I'm glad you mentioned the last part of it, because that to me is like the most interesting part of this, because I do think it's like, if you want to break it up, and it's not really thirds, but just in whatever percentage, there's a percentage of people who still just don't quite get that, like, for the $50 million that LeBron no longer would be making cannot just be directly transferred to another player. Like, you don't get to go out and get a $50 million player with that money. That's not how it works. So there's some people who still just don't quite get it. There are other people who kind of maybe are more like me. Like, I would give them a 1-on-1 and just understanding all the things that again, we'll rehash Monday's show entirely, but I don't even think what you're saying is wrong. I just think that certainly for next year, they are far worse off if LeBron doesn't come back. And even in a couple of years, I think you can manage your way around it, and you're still going to struggle to find players who are better. But I think you can kind of go towards my camp and just not quite get all the way there. Like, you know what? Even if it means one down year, at some point you got to there's no clean way to do it. And I get that. It's the third group that I find most interesting, of the people who kind of want to move on just because they don't really like LeBron, and they've never really liked LeBron. And so much of it goes back to the Kobe versus LeBron thing that sort of Nike really tried to create that never happened. That the rivalry never got a chance to.
Those puppets lied to us, Brian. Those Nike puppets lied to us. They promised explosions in the finals, and we never got them. Never.
And so, like, that kind of thing, like, that's the group, like, and because it starts to get into all kinds of questions about, like, what ultimately is LeBron's legacy going to be as a Laker? Because, I mean, obviously, to be considered, a great Laker or something, you got to win at least a title. And they did. He has a ring in LA. You mentioned some other stuff, but the success level hasn't been overwhelming in the LeBron era. And there have been a bunch of disappointing seasons as well. You got one title, you've got a conference finals, and a lot of stuff.
3 first-round exits, 2 missed playoffs.
So now, can you attribute this to LeBron necessarily at his level of play? Not necessarily, at least most of it. I mean, he's performed at an extremely high level as a Laker, arguably for too long, which is part of the problem, and that creates the predicament that everybody finds themselves in. But I find his place, like, with the Lakers to be fascinating, and the desire for a lot of people for it to be over. I think for some is about basketball, and for some it's about other stuff that comes into it. I'm not saying people are wrong. I don't have that same, like, sort of history or whatever it is, disliking LeBron or whatever it might be. But I do think that's a factor. I think it's absolutely a factor.
I think it's definitely a factor. I mean, the word I've continually used to describe the LeBron era with the Lakers is weird. It's been a very weird 7 years that has had the highest of highs in that you've won a championship. It's had not just the lowest of lows in that you miss the playoffs altogether, but it includes the Russell Westbrook deal, which is one of the most destructive deals in recent NBA history, that LeBron gets a lot of it pinned on him in ways you and I have both talked about before. We don't actually think is fair to LeBron, even though it's very clear and well reported LeBron wanted the deal, but LeBron having a bad idea about what the Lakers should do is one thing. LeBron selling it and Anthony Davis selling it to Rob successfully, that's the guy you ought to be angry at. Like, it is ultimately, said this before, I'll say it again, it is ultimately Rob Pelinka's job to tell LeBron and AD no to this idea, assuming he didn't want it, which he did. He liked it. But if Rob didn't like it, it's actually worse if he got bullied into doing something that he thought was a terrible idea. He should have told those guys no, that it's a bad idea. And if they argued, go to Jeannie Buss and say, Jeannie, they want us to do this. This is a terrible idea. And then Jeannie needs to back it. But
Yeah.
The real problem was Rob Pelinka had no issue with the deal. But the other thing, too, that I think separates Luka and LeBron in a lot of ways, other than Luka becomes the second or third star, depending on what you think of Anthony Davis and all this, following Kobe. So there's more buffers. It's always easier to be the guy after the guy following a legend. But Luka is not seen as bigfooting the organization the way LeBron, and I think to some tangible degree.
Not yet. At some point he will, but not yet.
But he did not bigfoot his way here.
Correct.
That's a big difference. I mean, Luka's
my point, all stars at some point.
Sure.
People, they have too much control. We're doing too much to appease this.
Right.
We're just not there yet.
Luka is going to, both pun intended and unintended, throw his weight around with this organization, because that is what superstars do.
Correct.
But he did not Bigfoot his way here the way LeBron did, the way Anthony Davis did, the way it felt like Clutch was running the organization and, in the eyes of a lot of Laker fans, steering them in a bad direction. It remains to be seen what Luka imprints upon the organization, but at the very least, he did not Bigfoot his way over here and hijack his way over here. And I think to a lot of Laker fans, whether it should matter or not, I think it does.
It's interesting. Well, a couple more things on this, and then get to some other news, including a ridiculous hypothetical trade for a center, but one that's worth talking about only because of what it represents in terms of the way people think perhaps about the Lakers. So we'll get to all that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, unfortunately, without the Lakers anymore. And every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't miss moments. Seriously, Knicks, Celtics, Nuggets, Thunder tonight, a lot of that. And whether there is a game-winning shot or a breakout player, never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You can track the players who consistently show up in big moments, but also when. And those trends can help inform your next bet. Maybe take that knowledge, roll it into a same-game parlay. You can press it up, keep things interesting and exciting. And if you're new to FanDuel, it is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, pick something obvious. You'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Quick reminder to people, we thank you for all the support for those of you who had signed up for the newsletter, but a reminder that the program just didn't quite work out the way that we had hoped, but we will try to be as responsive as we can to everyone. Leave us questions, leave us comments via email, kamenetskyBrothers@gmail.com, YouTube here in the comments section, Twitter @CamBrothers. But the newsletters, if you're wondering why you're not getting them, it's because we're not sending them anymore. So before we finish this LeBron thing, JJ Redick got a little bit of Coach of the Year love. Third place votes a total of 5 of them, I should say. So he had 5 third place votes, finished 6th in Coach of the Year voting because of that. Any surprise at where he finished? No surprise, Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland won. JB Bickerstaff was 2nd. Ime Udoka 3rd.
No, I'm not surprised. Side note, I would have voted for JB Bickerstaff, but I have no issue with Kenny Atkinson winning at all. All things considered, I think JJ did a pretty good job this year in terms of both establishing culture and navigating a lot of wild changes and wild obstacles over the course of his first season with one of the highest profile organizations in sports, much less the NBA. I think he did a good job there. We went through the issues in the playoffs. I think the playoffs ended up quite a learning experience for JJ, I hope, and definitely revealed some things that he needs to work on, particularly temperamentally.
Yes.
But he also was working with, it was pretty quickly revealed, the lesser roster, and that's going to make it difficult even for a seasoned coach, much less a rookie.
I will say this. The thing I like about Kenny Atkinson winning, and I like about JJ getting at least some acknowledgement here, is oftentimes, like a team like the Lakers, you have LeBron. Oh, you got Luka. Like, there's no acknowledgement of the challenge that comes with what's happening. There's just an assumption that if you're the Lakers coach and you have all this stuff, you have the resources here, that it's just an easy gig. So I do appreciate that that he got some love for that. I think had he not gotten a bunch, 5 third place votes, I wouldn't have stopped my day. But I like with Kenny Atkinson, like they rewarded a team as good as Cleveland was expected to be good, but they were wire to wire incredible.
Sure.
And I do think you should reward a coach for excellence, even if the team is supposed to be excellent.
Sure.
So yeah, but kudos for JJ, and it'll be interesting to see next year, what he does differently, because all coaches, it's not the decision making, it's the temperament. Because we've seen, it's not like the head coach in OKC is an inexperienced guy at this point. Just made a set of decisions that a lot of people are going to question. But the temperament stuff is really what JJ, I think, I agree with you, needs to fix. All right, so before we move on to the next thing, it was the last thing I would say about LeBron, that I think another thing that just sort of makes you use the word weird. Even the highest moment and the most successful moment is one that comes with so many mixed feelings, because it's a title that people could not get together to celebrate. There was no parade. There was no
couldn't even watch the games in the building.
Right, you're right. Saying there was no fans in the arena to see the confetti come down, or to there was no crowd to silence in another building. It was just a win, and it was over, and they celebrated, and they should have. But there's just, the whole thing had a sense of detachment to it that I think is appropriate in sort of framing the entire LeBron era, where there's been this just a little bit of detachment. And it's not, I don't think, because LeBron is doing anything wrong, but it is the reality of his relationship with Lakers fans. And I the longer it goes on, the louder the voices who probably didn't love that much of this era anyway, the louder those voices get.
Look, there's been a transactional feel to the time that LeBron's been a Laker. That doesn't mean that I think LeBron hasn't enjoyed it or appreciated it, or, he clearly wanted this to be a part of his legacy. I understand.
He's been an excellent player, and
right, but I'm just saying, I get that he wanted to be in LA. I get that he is basically living his post-retirement life while still playing basketball. I get all of that stuff. I do think there's a pride that he takes in being a Laker,
for sure.
There's a mercenary feel to it that has to be highly successful, I think, in order for fans to truly grow attached to it. So I think that's a piece of it as well.
I think there's a feeling, the Lakers have had so many homegrown stars.
Yeah.
Or players, like Pau Gasol, who, are traded for under, cloak and dagger circumstances and stuff like that. For a player like LeBron, who signed here, it's not like, but also too, the Lakers cleared the decks and, tanked some seasons and all this stuff with the idea that he was going to come. And all they had to do was really clear the runway. The Lakers fans, whether it's him, even times with Kobe, different times with, go back to Magic, had some rough times with Lakers fans and stuff. Lakers fans don't like the idea of feeling like the player gets to kind of boss around the organization. There's a certain sense.
Well, unless it's one of truly their guys. Magic is one of their guys.
Sure,
Kobe was one of
you
their
get more
guys.
you get more mileage that way. But even then, there's still kind of and Kobe, I think, is the ultimate example of it, just because he really, he was there the whole time, 20 years, all that kind of stuff. Magic would have been, really was that too. But what I'm trying to get is just like there's a sense of like, like being like an honor, like to be, you should want to be here, not like the Lakers shouldn't have to beg or, make concessions or do that kind of stuff. And I think the feeling with LeBron is more so that the Lakers have had to make the type of concessions, even though really I don't think they've been terribly impactful with the team in any limiting way. Making those kinds of concessions that have it's just a different kind of relationship, star relationship than Lakers fans are used to. And this is a place where Luka will benefit because Luka fell out of the sky and ended up a Laker. And I think it's going to be adopted by Lakers fans in better ways, faster than LeBron ever was. Kind of in conclusion, it should be a smoother transition for Lakers fans and Luka to develop the kind of bond that LeBron and Lakers fans have not really been able to do. Maybe it changes if they win another title or so before he retires, but as yet it hasn't happened. What also hasn't happened, and God willing won't, is a fairly absurd hypothetical trade for a star center that was kicking around the internet on Monday, but it's worth a word, and we'll explain why next. So, Andy, your theory here is that our friend Bill Simmons at The Ringer is basically just trying to kill the Lakers. But everybody knows the Lakers need a center. And a hypothetical was going around, this from a conversation with Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons, just kicking around a hypothetical. It's not a rumor in the league, but a hypothetical of would you or wouldn't you? Who says no kind of thing. The Lakers basically putting every loose player they can that isn't Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic into a deal to bring Joel Embiid to Los Angeles.
And here are some of the things Bill Simmons said in this conversation with Ryan Russillo, I believe on his podcast, on the Ringer Network, with this hypothetical, again, stress, hypothetical, not an actual trade rumor involving Joel Embiid and the Lakers. Embiid, talk about a get out of jail free card. Give you all of our expirings and a first, and we'll get you out of the Joel Embiid business. This is presumably the pitch from the Lakers to the Sixers. Here's your Embiid, get out of jail free right now. You don't have to deal with him anymore. That's my favorite Lakers move. All of their expiring and 2 first-round picks, and they get Embiid. Reeves isn't in it. He's not in it. You don't even get Reeves. We don't know if Embiid's ever playing again. I'm like, I'll take Embiid. You can have one of our first-round picks. Here's a bunch of expirings. Bill, in doing this, went back and forth between 1 and 2 first-round picks. For what it is worth, by the way, the expirings, Rui, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, that's actually not even enough money to make this happen. So you're going to have to include like either Austin or Dalton Connect,
Jared Vanderbilt.
But
it wouldn't all be expirings at that point. But the point is basically you're taking every loose salary you have until you get to what Joel Embiid makes.
Now, look, I'm a big admirer of Bill Simmons as a content creator, as a tastemaker, talent curator. Like, he has amazing taste. I'm a big consumer of Ringer content. Like, he has an incredible feel for what people enjoy. And I even respect Bill for his passion for the Celtics. He's from Boston. He's not only allowed to root for the Celtics, he is encouraged to love the Celtics. People from Boston should, but by definition, and I don't even need to define it because he's been open about this, it also means he hates the Lakers. So you know what Bill Simmons' favorite trades for the Lakers are? Trades that will cripple the Lakers. And by the way, Bill was not nearly as sly about his PSYOP operation. And make no mistake, this is a PSYOP. What he was doing, because listen to some of the words that he said. Get out of jail free card.
Joel Embiid in this metaphor is jail.
Right. The Lakers end up in jail. He is proposing a trade that would cripple the Lakers, and he is hoping that they are such star effers that they would immediately spring at the opportunity to take on Joel Embiid and his 4 years, $243 million that he's owed through 2029. To put this in perspective, my daughter is currently an 8th grader. She will be a senior in high school in 2029. Joel Embiid has played 58 games over the last 2 seasons.
Yes. And look, it's not even a question of like Embiid was horrible in the games that he played last year. That's not the point. His numbers actually weren't bad.
Yeah, all 19 of them were thrilling.
Right. That's the point. And like, it's obviously a horrible idea, and it's obviously an idea the Lakers would not.
When he's 31 too.
Right. You want to pay him until he's 35 because people notoriously get healthier as they get older in this league. Guys who can't walk.
Yeah, that last year of his contract, a $70 million player option. I am penciling that in as opting in right now.
Yes. And so, like, and I don't mean like it is unfortunate what has happened to Embiid physically. He's got chronic knee problems that are not going to. This is not an editorial on Embiid's attitude or this or that or whatever. He's a phenomenal player when he's healthy. He's just never healthy. The point of this, though, and the reason we bring it up is not to make fun of Bill.
Although we see what you're doing. We see what you're doing.
Right. Or even to really think about, like, should the Lakers do it? No, is the answer to that. And I don't even think the star effer Lakers would be willing to put themselves on the hook for $200 plus million from Joel Embiid over the next 4 years. But the reason I think it's interesting is because it is representative of like the option tree that you sort of have in front of you. And if your metric is like, we got to go trade for another star, or use free agency. Like, I think this is the danger of free agency is you end up in a decision to either go acquire via trade and then have to re-sign someone like Joel Embiid or Paul George or any of these guys getting deeper into their 30s who, quite frankly, are terrible bets going forward. To try or like aim smaller. And so the Embiid is like symbolic here of one path, which is do you give up everything, tantalized by the talent, and are willing to overlook the risk? And in today's NBA, I think what is the biggest thing that is going to change going forward is the deals for someone like Embiid, the deals for Paul George, the deals for James Harden, guys like that who are good but limited, and you can't trust to stay healthy going forward. What happens with Kevin Durant going forward is going to be fascinating because he's getting older, a little more injury prone, but is still, like LeBron, a tremendous player when he's out on the floor. This is actually where the Lakers benefit from LeBron's age and all that kind of stuff, is because I don't think they can sign him to a 4-year, $250 million deal. He can only get 1-and-1s, basically. I think they can do a 2-and-1.
He can do a 2-and-1.
Right, but like he can't go super long term. In some ways, I believe that at least becomes an advantage for the Lakers, and even if he wanted a 2-and-1, they wouldn't give it to him, I don't think, at this stage. I mean, they might, but I don't. That even I was defending earlier the idea of like a 1-and-1, a 2-and-1, at a max deal or something like that might get me to be like, let's pause. But you understand the point. It's like
I'm just going to say right now, that's straight up bad business to give him a 2+1, with the +1 being at his option.
His option,
50-ish, right. Something like that's
bad idea.
Horrible.
Bad idea. The Lakers are going to need to avoid the temptation and this is something that supports, I think.
I hope Embiid does not qualify as a temptation.
I don't think Embiid is a temptation. Nobody's going near that. But it kind of, to your point that you were making earlier in the first segment, the Lakers, as they start to put something together around Embiid.
Damn it, man. You've fallen for it. Damn you, Bill Simmons. Damn you straight to hell.
Look what he did. the Lakers need to make sure they're putting things together in a way that matches the current like construct of NBA salary caps and team building and all this stuff, and make sure they are not putting a team around Luka together in a way that would have been appropriate in 2018, because that's the problem the Clippers are in right now. And that's the problem the Sixers are in right now. And it's the problem the Bucks have right now, and why Giannis may not be in Milwaukee for that much longer. It is so easy to fall into that trap. Me like, you know what? He's the best player. Dame Lillard's still really good or whatever. And you end up in a roster that is just not appropriate and built right for the salary cap or for the CBA of 2025. And that, I think, is what made the Embiid hypothetical interesting to me, is that it represents the old way of doing things, and also something the Lakers 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, maybe not for Joel Embiid given his physical state, but the next thing below absolutely would have done. I mean, and I hope they would not do now.
It's not entirely apples to apples, but it is basically the big man version of the Russell Westbrook trade.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah.
Only worse because he's on the hook for more money for longer.
And at least Russ plays.
Right. Give him that. Anyway, so there's plenty of stuff that we didn't get to, actually. We still got to talk about Luka, who's going to be playing in for Slovenia in the Eurobasket tournament. And all of that stuff. And also too, what centers they might want to go get if Joel Embiid is just not a great option. So we'll get to all that through the rest of the week. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where we can go hang out with 35,000 plus subscribers to the channel. See everyone tomorrow.